Hey, hi there. I hope everybody is doing well. All right, so we're gonna start in a place. Do you want to see the lights or the door? I did not charge my ring light. I forgot. Please don't be mad at me. It was an honest mistake, but it's not too bad. You don't have to see the background anyway because I'm going to share a screen with you. So give me a moment to do that. Oh, first, first, let's lead into this and give people a chance to see the video. I want to show you on my phone here something I found last night, and I want you to keep it in the back of your mind while we look at the information we're going to look at. Now, whenever I do a reading, I like to ease into that with actual background information or, some type of reasoning as to why we're looking at the things that we are looking at. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. Sorry, guys. All right, so I'm going to show you something, and it is rather a serious topic. Now, every trail that I have gone down in the last several years often and always seems to lead to the same place. And it's tiring, it wears on you, and the knowledge of some of these things over the years bears a cause on you. Like I've aged the last couple of years just knowing the things that are going on, and your physical state can suffer, but we're supposed to, I think, allow our spiritual states to grow from these instances. I hope. That's what I think. So every trail has led to two of the same places every time. And I don't think that's coincidence. So I set out to rather prove that the reason the United States of America cannot criticize Israel because we are Israel. It's more of a spiritual thing. And again, the ones that are here with us know this. So let's just get that out right away, is that we aren't all the same here. Although I do not believe in, and I'm not a promoter of violence. All my disclaimers are in the description box. I'm a pacifist. That's just where I dwell. And so I want to show you this, and I want you to think of us, being in current times. I want to get your mindset in the right place for the video that you're about to see. So last night I found this on a buy seller trade website called OfferUp, and I'm going to show it to you because it's public and you could go find it if you wanted to. But I want to show you what's going on here. Now, I've told you I've seen babies. I right before I left social media, there were babies being posted by people that I knew didn't have young children with money beside the babies. Like, this was all very open, and like it was just kind of everywhere. So the first thing I want to show you is this. You can pause it if you need to. On OfferUp, a buy seller trade site, they are selling a full size regular shipping container. Many of them, not just one, not just two, but many of them. Looks like they're selling it for $17.25. And the wording is also kind of strange. It says rodent free and ready. And we know how the word rat has been used over and over and over again in this subliminal type of way. Lab rat, rat somebody out. That all goes back to Project Gotham and what they're doing, how they're changing New York City. And New York City is just the first of many that will follow suit and do what it's doing. So now you have 1725 for a rodent-free and ready shipping container. It says used, normal wear and tear, but they're selling these in Ohio. And it says description 20 by 40 shipping containers, wind and watertight, delivery available. Need extra storage? We've got you covered. Wind and watertight, rodent and pest free, solid floors and doors, quick and easy delivery. Secure payment, no hidden fees. 20 standard, 40 standard, and high cube. And so, yeah, I wanted to show you that because, again, all of these rabbit trails seem to lead to a similar or the same place. Now we're going to look at a little bit of the background with the Hopi because I've noticed, once again, some similarities in some Jewish history that kind of I don't know. Let's take a look. I'm going to share a screen with you. Nobody is here yet. I'm not sure what's going on. Let's make sure that it is live on YouTube. And I will pull up this for you and share it with you. There we go. There we go. And here. And share. All right, let's make sure that it looks like things are working. Make sure that the screen is sharing. Yep. All right, looks good. Okay, so this is what we're going to look at first. Now, again, we are looking at the prophecy book of the Hopi. But in order to do that as well, we're also looking at their history. And so I'm going to try and bring something else up as well. We'll see if I can do it at the same time. If it'll let me. Oh, not quite. All right. So I'm going to have to pull the book up a different way, but we'll do this. So this is from 1998. We are here. Understand that I like to go a little further back to the roots of some of this information. As far back as I can, really. I'm going to talk about a couple of sensitive topics, especially for YouTube and the internet. So you might have to read along at certain parts, or I will just figure out how to, get by it. Because the point is that I want the video seen. It's not that I'm bought and paid for by anyone. Hey, hi, the Michigander. Hi, Channel One, Michael. Good morning. Greetings and salutations. I've been really interested in this series of the Hopi prophecies. Yes, and to get to the prophecies real quickly, I hope that y'all can be patient because we have to. Please work. Okay, yay, it worked. Back up. Sorry, probably lost the small audience that I had, but that's okay. It's okay because I'm going to continue on. All right, so this is a serious topic. Hopefully, everybody can be adults during this topic. Let me make sure that it is working this time again. And share the screen with you all. There we go. All right, sorry, I had too many screens put up, I think. Or it might be the topic that I'm discussing, and that happens. So again, if I tell you that we are consuming Soylent Green and you keep consuming it, that is a severe example of cognitive dissonance. There's something wrong there with that picture. All right, is the screen sharing? It looks like I'm having some problems, and I apologize, guys. I hope you can be patient with me. La, 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 la. Let's see. Come on, man. There we go. It's really behind. It's lagging a little bit, and I apologize. I'm going to get right to it then. So this is a bit of the Hopi history. It's what may have happened when they always say, oh, well, all these people disappeared. What happened to this group of people, this tribe of people, this sect of people? Where did they go? So let's get started. I can give you guys at least an hour of my time today. I'm going to cook my son an omelet. Hopefully it's going to be a good one today because I actually have eggs and peppers and onions at the same time again. They don't eat much in front of me anymore. Again, these topics have a lot to do with my personal testimony because I was like you. People would say certain things, and my spouse, even when he started looking into things, he would say, do you believe that they put certain things in their matzo balls? If you don't know what it is, just look it up. And I'd say, no, that's not happening still. People don't eat each other. We're not dealing with that here. Just like you saw that girl that I shared the video, she was on TikTok and she talked about finding a jaw, like body parts in her children's chicken nuggets. You're going to see that happen more and more. You're going to see people suddenly recognize and realize, and their spirits recognize and realize what they've done, and they're going to come to some type of emotional breakdown because of it. And you're going to see that a lot. And so I'm trying to prepare you a bit for that. Again, How was work today? Oh, I ended a bunch of homeless people. That's not normal. But when you're being abused, you think that these people are just trying to hurt you, they're trying to scare you, they're trying to shock you. You don't actually believe what they're telling you. And that's the problem, is we allow ourselves to be deceived because we believe the cover story. We believe the lie. So let's get into it. More than a century ago, American travelers in the Southwest were astounded to find ruined cities and vast cliff dwellings dotting the desert landscape. Surely they thought a great civilization had once flourished here. It looked to them as if the people who created it had simply walked away and vanished. So again, we're going to touch on that a few times here. I'm not going to read all the way through. Most of us know the basics of the history. It says the Navajo Indians, who were occupying much of the territory where this lost civilization once existed, called them the Anasazi. Now, here's where it gets interesting, is always the etymology. If you dig into the words always reveal the truth of what's happening and what's going on. So again, we've got to keep these things in our mind, because I'm going to show you a little bit of etymology after this and before we get into the Hopi reading again. So it says, not surprisingly, oh wait, Anasazi means ancient enemy. Okay, now again, Anasazi, think of that. It sounds a lot like Ashkenazi, which actually relates to this. And you're going to say, no, Jen, that's two different things. You're talking about, a tribe of Jewish people. No, I'm not. Again, pay attention, because we've been lied to about our history, but it's all right in front of us if we put the picture together in the right order. And I also believe Philip K. Dick was right. I think we're in a time where we're told it's much later than it actually is. Back at the end of World War II, the Jewish folks, to differentiate themselves, were made to wear gold stars. Who wears gold stars today? Firemen, police, sheriffs, okay? They're showing us where we're at. We've been so indoctrinated with the false textbooks that they feed you in school that it's so far out of people's scope of understanding oftentimes. So keep these things in mind. Build a picture in your mind as I'm reading this to you. Don't allow somebody else to form it for you. And just imagine, what if I'm right? What if some of us are right? What if America is Israel, and then so these tribes down south are the lost tribes, or some of the tribes, or one or two of the tribes, or a mixing? All right, so Anasazi is a word that means ancient enemy. What do we call our enemy if you're a Christ follower? You call it the enemy, the adversary, our enemy, the devil, Satan, anything satanic or demonic. They call theirs Anasazi. And I'm going to say again, it's very similar to Ashkenazi. And when we look at the etymology, you'll see what I mean too. And that's why I looked it up. Before I got on this video, I looked up Anasazi and Ashkenazi, because I'm like, those words are very similar, very similar. Just a couple inversions in the middle, or just one inversion in the middle. And so I looked it up, because otherwise you don't put these things together, right? You wouldn't think Jewish people down in Southwest America. But again, I'm telling you, I think I'm right about it. I think some of us that have caught on to it are right. And I think we're in a different time. If they were made to wear the gold stars after the war, and we still have people wearing the gold stars, who wears the gold stars today? I thought it was me. I'm still here. Sorry about that. Again, when I get to talking about these topics, oftentimes I will have technical issues. I prayed over everything, so. Okay, so not surprisingly, American archaeologists focused on the Anasazi, the enemy, and their great works, and they became the most intensely studied prehistoric culture in North America. Why would you intensely study something that you know means the enemy? Why wouldn't you ask the Hopi more about, like, why are they the enemy? What did they do to you? Da 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 da. If the Hopi are the only ones remaining there. So again, and I think we have a Scooby-Doo issue. If you've ever watched Scooby-Doo, at the end, they always take off a mask. Hey, it's been the police chief all along. We have people, what's the word I'm looking for? Parading around wearing the label of what they think will be a righteous, untouchable group that nobody else will mess with. That's why they create gaslighting, psyops on all of us and tell us, hey, if you say anything bad about this group, then that means you're anti blah blah blah. Do you see what I'm saying? Don't allow these tactics to operate and affect how you operate and your discernment, because people are so low in discernment now. I've told you over and over and over for several years now, you're eating Soylent Green. Why don't you care? Why don't you stop eating that? And people don't stop. And I read you Baruch, and in the end days, there's a cannibalistic curse. So they studied these people. A standard picture had emerged based on a wide-ranging excavations of sites on detailed ethnographic research among the Hopi, Zuni, and other Pueblo Indian tribes, who are the Anasazis' descendants. So the Hopi allegedly are the Anasazis' descendants, sort of. And it goes on to just say how great they are and this, that, and the other. But we're going to go. It says they constructed more than 100 great houses outside Chaco Canyon, spreading them over 50,000 square miles of the Four Corners region of the Southwest. Many of these outlying great houses seem to have been connected to Chaco by the radiating pattern of roads. Archaeologists today call this cultural explosion the Chaco phenomenon. Now, see, here's the thing. I've been feeling called to Arizona since all of this started happening in 2018. And again, I'm not special. I say that I talk to God and he talks back. I don't know why that freaks people out so badly. Most people meditate, people pray, people believe in aliens, but if you tell them you're talking with God, it's like this big thing. I heard a young man on TikTok and this video is going around and he said if Samuel heard an audible voice. He heard God's voice out loud because he ran outside, but his friend didn't hear it. That's flawed logic right there. That's flawed logic. If his friend didn't hear it, then it wasn't allowed. It was just loud for Samuel, the prophet. It was in his head. It was in his heart, but it was so loud that he went around looking because he wasn't used to God talking to him. So again, be careful who you're listening to and have proper discernment. All of these trails lead to cannibalism. They all lead to Soylent Green. And they're doing this to us because they want to corrupt us. They want us spiritually blind and they want us as guilty as them. They are not of mankind, at least not anymore. And we're going to get into that because the Navajo and the Wendigo and the shape-shifting skinwalkers all go together. And those are curses or blessed. They think it's some neat trick they get, but it's a curse upon someone who ends their own family member and then consumes them or does something just as wicked, according to the Navajo. And we've gone over some of this. America is in severe cognitive dissonance, and we are still putting people up on pedestals. You've switched everything from Hollywood to YouTube. And a lot of them are in their own little groups who have lured children via Discord, and they are a big problem, and they are a reason Gen Z and Gen Y are indoctrinated, and I know because my family has been fully YouTube. I'm trying to use it for what I believe it was intended for, which is to spread awareness about these things. Doesn't matter what religion you are. If you are somebody who still has a conscience and a heart, then this should affect you. Okay. So we get to the part where that they're saying, oh, they're great, they're this, they're that. So it says, as a result of all this, Anasazi captured the fancy of people outside the archaeological profession, and particularly those in the New Age movement, many of whom see themselves as Anasazi's spiritual descendants. Now, again, I've been feeling called to Arizona. If I'm right, and Jerusalem, the real Jerusalem and Israel is in America, then the Four Corners is the hub of all of that. Do you see what I'm saying? Joshua Tree actually has a skull rock that looks like a skull, not some place that they keep showing us since the 1930s, telling us that's Israel, with some facade. And we have broad areas in America where we're not allowed to go if you're a regular person. And then we have superstars that our children are idolizing, like Post Malone and Doja Cat, who are in the club that they're of Jewish descent. That's why they're running the show. But what does the Bible tell us if you read Revelation? And again, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It's a Scooby-Doo prank. They have put on the mask of what they think is a suppressed and persecuted group to guilt everybody and tell them, don't look at us, don't look at what we're doing. They're not actually who they say that they are. And that's a problem, and they're not human. And my channel has both of my channels. I've been stalked in real life. I've been stalked online. I've been pretty much deleted. I've had bills come up that aren't legitimate, but I'm trying to pay them anyway, just because how are you going to fight the system? You don't face all this unless you're bringing things to light that they don't want brought to light. And this is my penance for denying it for so long. It's been around me this whole time, and I had no idea because I was so abused. I'm basically a goyim. If you don't know what that is, you got to look it up. It means they have me around for whatever use I can bring, whether that's money or having their children. And then when they're done with you and you can't do anything else for them, then they have no loyalty to you because you're a goyim. You're not one of them. And they basically have you around as a slave. But I believe that the true people of these tribes are all being called to this area, and we're all having this awakening, and it's a real one. It's not this, and I'm getting like my goosebumps. It's not this fake thing. Nobody told me these things. Nobody like I just knew these things. Okay, so let's get into it because this is where it gets nasty. Okay, so as a result, the Anasazi captured the fancy of people outside of the archaeological thing, and it was a New Age movement. Many of them who see themselves as the Anasazi spiritual descendants. The ruins of Chaco Canyon have long been a New Age mecca. Interesting word they chose there, to the point where one of the sites had to be closed because New Agers were burying crystals and illegally arranging to have their ashes scattered there. During harmonic convergence in 1987, it must have been a New Age gathering, thousands gathered in Chaco Canyon and joined hands, chanting and praying. I did Hands Across America with my dad, but I thought it was like a peace, love type thing. I loved it. It was great. I got squished. I was a little kid getting squished by all these people in the road. It was great. People have also flocked to the village of the present day Pueblo Indians, the Hopi in particular, seeking a spirituality outside Western civilization. The Hopi themselves, along with other Pueblo Indian descendants of the Anasazi, feel deep reverence for their prehistoric ancestors. And I want to approach this topic with some levity and some reverence. I do like to joke around. Sometimes we have fun. I goof on myself all the time when I mess up on the channel. But this topic, it affects everybody, and it affects our souls. Where do you think all the missing people are going? How do you think McDonald's has billions of hamburgers every day, a lot of which get just thrown away? Do you see cattle running everywhere in farms? Cattle, do you see cattle farms everywhere? Because they would literally have to be all over the place for the amount of meat that is produced. Where do you think missing 411 goes? Not all of them. I believe some of them are raptured. And I'll get into that in one of the Eden videos that we might take a look at. Okay, so the topic deserves reverence because people died. And some people, maybe they died before they could be saved or before they could, fulfill any of their personal dreams. I personally believe everyone does what they are created and supposed to do eventually. But it does seem that there's some trickery happening in regards to reincarnation, and that if you agree to certain things, well, in this time and place, they can happen to you. So that's why I also advise understanding laws of consent and natural law when you are up just functioning and living and breathing today. But if you have children, you keep them close. Trust me, I know of what I speak. All right. Observe your loved ones. If you had somebody that was very pure of heart and they seem to be the exact opposite now, maybe their spirit, maybe their soul, maybe they got their light body and they were raptured out of this wicked time so they wouldn't have to face what some of us are facing. All of these things are coming out, and they knew they were coming out. And what you're seeing is a whole lot of distraction and damage control. I believe a lot of them are in hiding and have been since 2019. And they're using the screens to kind of pretend like they're still out and about. But the ones that are powerful and the ones that don't care what you find out, sure, they're still operating freely, but they don't look like what you see on the screen because then they can't operate freely. Do you see how this works? The deception, how deep it goes? This is why it's not good to idolize anyone, especially and don't take your information from channels that have followers over 2 and 300,000. Yes, God will raise some people up, but it's not the norm. God doesn't care how wealthy we are. We might care, but God doesn't care about that. In 1967, a young physical anthropologist named Christy Turner II began looking at the Anasazi in a new light. Now check this out. He happened to be examining Anasazi teeth in the Museum of Northern Arizona in Flagstaff, attempting to trace a peculiar trait known as the three-rooted first molar. On the day of his research, he asked the curator to pull down a large coffin-shaped cardboard box from a top shelf. The accession record said that the box contained remains from a remote area along the Palaka Wash, an area situated below First Mesa on the Hopi Indian Reservation. The remains have been excavated in 1964 by an archaeologist named Alan P. Olson. Turner removed the lid and found himself gazing at a bizarre collection of more than 1,000 human bone shards. 30 years later, when he described the experience to me, the memory was still vivid. "Holy smokes," he said. He exclaimed to himself, "What happened here? This looks exactly like food trash." Now, what he's talking about is like when you eat a chicken bone, what do you do with when you eat a chicken wing? What do you do with the bone? You just toss it, right? He's saying that's what this is. This is the discards. All right. This looks exactly like food trash. The fragments reminded him of broken and burned animal bones that he had found in prehistoric Anasazi garbage mound. As he looked more closely, another thought struck him. Like many physical anthropologists, he had sometimes done forensic work for police departments. Once in California, the police asked him to examine some remains that had been found in Oakland Hills, a skeleton still wearing a pair of boots. Turner had informed the police that the person had been savagely beaten. Now, he told me, I could see the same violence done to the Palaka Wash bones. Here's where we get into the nastiness. Turner borrowed the bones from the museum and took them to Arizona State University, where he was a professor. In 1969, he presented his findings in a paper he read at an archaeological meeting in Santa Fe. Word of what the paper would say had got around, and the room was packed, co-written with a colleague of Turner's named Nancy Morris. The paper was entitled "A Massacre at Hopi." Turner informed the audience that the bones belonged to a group of 30 people, mostly women and children. Women and children first. All of these like things that we say, women and children first, that wasn't a good thing. I mean, you take them first. They're the easiest booty. They're the easiest win in a war. When you're pillaging like a Viking, women and children first. Do you get it yet? Where you are? Like that's what this is. And also I was thinking of something else today. It's sometimes true, but it's not always true that dogs and babies are a good indicator of somebody's spirit. And I know that for a fact. I just know it. Sometimes an individual is so charming or so charismatic or so good at hiding that other side, especially if a being is raised with it, whether that be a child or an animal. Sometimes that person is so good at camouflaging themselves that the children and the dog don't know until they know. Okay. So Turner informed the audience that the bones belonged to a group of 30 people, mostly women and children, who had been killed, crudely dismembered, violently mutilated, and that the heads in particular showed extreme trauma. I had extreme head trauma at the beginning of 2019 after I started talking, like, because I didn't know to keep my mouth shut, right? I'm like, man, God's talking to me. We need to go. We need to get out of here. We need to prep. All the while not realizing that my enemy had held me close because he knew I was his enemy. I didn't know I was his enemy. And I'm a pacifist. I don't do violence unless I'm seeing something like this take place. Then I'm sure something else would take over. But anyways, Every skull is smashed chiefly from the front, your frontal lobe, and massively so. The faces were crushed while still covered with skin. Every skull is smashed chiefly from the front and massively so. Most of the skulls had received a number of blunt, heavy, club-like fracturing blows. End quote. The bone material had still been vital at the time the blows were struck. Vital meaning they were no longer a threat, but the blood was still pumping in their body. This is important to understand. And this is how you can tell what has happened to somebody, and why. And this is why I have problems with the Old Testament too. These beings take the Torah, the Tanakh, the Old Testament, because it's been around a long time. They take some of that very seriously. And they don't understand it's spiritual. They take it literally. So they thought, well, it's okay if we eat flesh and blood, but only if it's been separated from the animal, right? The point was not to consume it at all. But they're not understanding this. They have these 613 laws thinking they're from God, but those were societal laws laid down by man. They can't be met. That's why Christ came, was because everything was being done wrongly. This has always been a problem. Since day one, these other beings that can sometimes inhabit a person's body, which the Hopi talk about at great length in their prophecy. So if you don't want to hear about that, then you probably don't want to hear the prophecy, because they tell us that other beings that once walk the earth again. And I think these ancient ones were here. This is why in 2019, you saw the Egyptian sarcophagus ceremony, right? You saw that big royal ceremony they had for the moving of the sarcophagus, which I've never seen in my lifetime. They don't just move things like that. These beings have been welcomed into certain individuals because they wanted something, right? They've made these Faustian deals and bargains. And we are at a time when also the veil is very thin. My goal has always been to prepare your souls for what's coming. I can't readily prepare your bodies. I can give you tips, but my job has been to try because I even prayed about this because I woke up in such a dramatic fashion. Before the head injury, I got the head injury for my trouble, for snooping into things. That's why I got what I got. Sorry, that sidetracks me sometimes because it's a bad memory. So I just want you to understand, I go into this understanding it's a very difficult topic, but I prayed to God. I said, please wake people up. Please wake everybody else up in a slower, more gentle way than I was awoken, because it's traumatic. You don't have to have anything physical done to you to suddenly realize where you are and that you've participated in this. That's the thing. They've made us all guilty of this. We've all participated. If you've ate of the meat in this time, you are guilty. That's why during Rona, they tried to say, oh, it was something wrong with you. Wasn't anything wrong with you. It's what they're giving us to eat that's wrong. And TikTok has done a great job of highlighting this. So I don't even have to push anymore and try to get people to believe me like I've had to do since 2018. So it tells you that many small pieces of unweathered teeth and skulls and postcranial scraps suggest but do not prove that the death of these people occurred at the burial site. Moreover, every skull, regardless of age or sex, had the brain exposed. Now you read what it says here. I'm not reading this part out loud. Well, the heads were like this, and they were placed just so because somebody was, in fact, I mean, think about it. If you're in your kitchen and you're at your counter, what do you have? You have a big bowl and you place out your ingredients so that you can chop your onions and your tomatoes and your peppers and crack your eggs. They were going to consume brain. I don't know how else to say it. He went on to say most of the bones, not only the skulls, also showed marks of cutting, chopping, dismemberment, butchering, defleshing, and roasting. The larger bones had been broken apart and the marrow scraped out, or in the case of spongy bone, reamed out. So whoever did this, it was not their first time, right? Like they understood what they were doing. They knew about bone marrow way back in the day before there was allegedly anything to take a picture of your insides, right? But they knew how to do this, which meant they were adept at it, which meant they had practiced. They were well practiced. They did this regularly. Okay. Turner said that Olson, the original excavator, had been wrong in assuming that the bones were prehistoric, for Turner had the bones radiocarbon dated and the results come back 1580 AD. Now we know there's issues with carbon dating, or we think there are, so the numbers pretty much mean almost nothing, but 1580, that actually does mean something. And like the rule of 5 and 5 guys and 5G and all this, like they are to the point that they're anal about their numbers. Like everything's got to line up in their codes. Plus or minus 95 years, given the date, Turner wondered whether some record or legend might still exist relating what happened. When he talked with me, he said, we knew who the bods were. There was a certain number of kids and females. We looked at dental morphology. We got a good match with Hopi. So we asked ourselves, what is there in oral tradition about a whole bunch of Hopi being killed and consumed or massacred of this age and gender composition at this date? Turner eventually concluded that the Polaka Wash site was a place known in Hopi legend as the Death Mound. That reminds me of what we heard about Judas in the book of Acts, which we're getting to in the next video again. I'm trying to tie both of these up. But in the book of Acts, where his field was known as just a field of blood because nothing would grow there. Or Isaiah's dry bones, right? Are these the bones and the stones that cry out for justice to the Lord? I had a dream about rocks again the other night, guys. When all this first started, I had a dream that I was at the bottom of a mountain and I was holding a baby that was crying. And I was like, shh, you got to be quiet. We're going to get in trouble. And I didn't know how to get up this giant mountain. And I took the cover off the baby and it was a stone. And then the other day I had dreams that I was like chopping away at stone with like a chisel and a hammer. It was very strange. But when I have these types of dreams, I tell you about them because usually they mean something, but I don't know what. Okay, so it's known as the Death Mound. Hopi informants had first described the legend to an anthropologist at the end of the 19th century. According to the story, sometime in the late 1600s, a Hopi village called Awatovi had been largely converted to Christianity under the influence of Spanish friars. In addition, the people of Awatovi practiced witchcraft, which the Hopi considered a heinous crime. Eventually, 5 other Hopi villages decided to purge the tribe of this spiritual stain. An attack was organized by the chief of Awatovi himself, who had become disgusted with his own people. Warriors from the other village attacked the errant village at dawn, surprising most of the men inside the kivas, sunken ceremonial chambers of the Pueblo Indians, and burning them alive. After killing the men, the warriors captured groups of women and children. The argument got out of hand because they wanted to keep them alive. If the stories are correct, the final butchery at Medcial must have been horrible. And see, again, what I know of how this has worked, it's very possible that the witches are the ones who overcame the godly like Hopi, because Hopi really aren't violent, right? But their men had decided that this was a heinous crime and they had to go. I don't know that that's necessarily true because the Hopi took a vow to be pacifists. We just read that the other day. So again, this might be one of those cases of, like I said, the Scooby-Doo, where the one who is actually guilty overcomes the innocent ones. And when the police arrive, they say, we're the ones who were trapped. We're the ones who were trapped. We don't know where the bad guys went. They took off when they knew you were coming. And so suddenly you have these people who are actually the criminals who have ended the innocent people so they can't tattle on them. And then they take their place in society with nobody being the wiser. I believe this is what has happened with the Jewish tribes. It's in the Bible. It tells us it's going to happen. It tells us that somebody else took their place. And I think that's what the screen shows us, is these fake people to lead us to sin. And what do? They rap about, money, substances, booty, right? Getting mine, gotta get mine, being a boss, gotta get mine. They are leading everybody astray. They are the system. And who can fight the beast? And I think it's asking a question. I don't think it's saying we can't fight the beast. I think it's asking who's brave enough to. Just like in David, it's another foreshadow. Everybody teaches this stuff, and I'm not a theologian, but it seems pretty evident to me that it's types and shadows of David, because they said the same thing to him. Who can fight this giant? None of us can fight him. Who can fight this giant? And David, the smallest and youngest of the tribe, kicked the rock and said, man, make him go pound sand. I got this. So we're seeing again in the book of Revelation, who can fight the beast? Who? Oh, I will if I'm the only one. Like, it doesn't even bother me anymore. I'm going to lose my life for this, probably. And I don't care. People need to know these things are going on. It's heinous. We will get to a time of peace and harmony, but we can't get to that until we know the problem. Okay, so it says over the next 30 years, Turner looked deeper into the archaeological record for signs of cannibalism going all the way back to the Hopi's Anasazi ancestors. To his surprise, he discovered that a number of claims of Anasazi violence and cannibalism had been published by archaeologists, but the profession, perhaps blinded by conventional wisdom, meaning blinded by their academics, right? Just like in the beginning, Jordan Peterson was outcast from being around other, psychiatrists and shrinks, and he was just outcast from his peers, his peer group. People feel pressured to continue on with the lie. They want to keep their house, they want to keep their car. Some cases, they want to keep their family. And I'm not blaming them, I'm just laying it out that this is how it happens. We can't allow that to happen to another generation. We cannot allow another generation to be bound in this slavery, because the problem with a person that doesn't know they're a slave, they never try to escape. See? So that's why they never told us we were slaves, so we wouldn't try to get away, and we would just sit in America and eat our burgers and drink our milkshakes and get chubbier and chubbier and chubbier until suddenly one day it's time and all these people just start disappearing. Conveniently, some of the people that disappear are honest people who were cellular molecular engineers and geneticists. All of the ones who broke away from traditional science, they're gone. That's why I do this, because too many people have lost their lives to keep wicked, nasty, heinous secrets, just so they can corrupt the rest of us. That is the goal, is to make us dirty and corrupt. They don't care how it happens. They don't want our consent for anything, because you see, when the demonic gets a human being to work with them, the human being has more freedom. The demons are legalists. They have to follow whatever divine law that they are under, especially as being demons. When you go rogue, like, then you kind of don't have a choice. Your wickedness is going to be used for good. And you can only do what the Most High allows you to do. But if these people repent of this, then they're easy targets, and they're easily ended, unless you are under the protection of the one true God. Now, these people claim to be the chosen, and I tell you again, they are not. The scripture tells us this. And, oh, you believe in a 2,000-year-old book. Man, it's revealed so much to me. It's all in what's not said. Yes, people weaponize it. People weaponize everything. You can weaponize anything. Turner has identified many Anasazi sites that he believes represent charnel deposits, heaps of cannibalized remains. Next month, the University of Utah Press will, and I told you, the Mormons know everything. The LDS Church knows everything. Press will publish the results of his work under the title Man-Corn, Cannibalism and Violence in the Prehistoric American Southwest. The term man-corn is the literal translation of the Nahuatl Aztec word, I'm not going to say that word, which refers to a sacred meal of sacrificed human meat cooked with corn. Oh my. I didn't know that was coming up, or I would have prepared for that. The book had a co-author in Turner's wife, Jacqueline, also an anthropologist who died in 96. Interesting. Mancorn re-examined 72, there's that number, Anasazi sites. Okay, so why is there 72? Because allegedly there are 72 names of God and 72 demonic names, 72 angels that do God's work, 72 demons that don't do God's work. But again, it all gets turned into the good in the end. So Bancorn re-examined 72 Anasazi sites, and that's why I do this live, so you can see all these little coincidences that pop up, and you can say, okay, there's no way all of those things are mere coincidence. There's too many. It's not possible. He calculates at least 286 individuals were consumed, with a mean of between 7 and 8 individuals per site. As a test to see how widespread cannibalism might have been, Turner also examined a collection of 870, why that number I don't know, skeletons in the Museum of Northern Arizona. He found that 8%, one skeleton in 12, showed clear evidence of having been cannibalized. So this is how everybody says, where'd they go? How'd they disappear? Oh, it must have been aliens. They were consumed, man. And now here's the problem too with blaming one group or this group or that group. You have entities, you have progeny of the fallen ones that are here after the flood. We are told that they are, and they've passed all this down. And the genetics, this is why they have people in genetics, is because the giant gene is recessive. It appears to be gone now. Now, I'm not saying there aren't giants, because I've seen some evidence of, yeah, they're still here. They live long lives, some of them. But I'm saying people that walk beside you, some of your family members, have signed on with this program because they knew it's a calling. It is a time of that to happen. There's our squirrel. See, I love the squirrel. I love the birds. And suddenly they all moved out of that tree. They were smart enough to leave. You think the humans in this house are smart enough to find somewhere else to live? No, because I'm the only one that's ever here. So if anyone goes, it's going to be me and the dogs. And that's just a fact. He found that 8%. Okay, so Turner's book does more than attack the traditional views of the Anasazi. It also addresses one of the great unsolved problems of American archaeology. What caused the collapse of the Chaco culture around 1150? There was a severe drought at the time, but most researchers don't believe it alone could have brought about such a cultural implosion. Other unknown factors must have played a role. And see, I told you, this wheel has many spokes. They are nothing if not efficient. You are a human resource. They will let you work in their system for as long as you are productive and profitable and blind. Okay? And as long as you are fun to them, they want to have fun. They think it's funny to mock us and scoff at us when we're right there in front of them. If you cannot do this, if you're somebody that will work with them and you have secret talents, or you can sing, or you are good with numbers, or you're good with computers, and you want to sign on with them, they will let you do that. The minute that you don't have any of that left, this is what will happen. Bone cakes. I've been following Turner's work for about 10 years. He's one of the country's leading physical anthropologists and has a reputation for being something of a loner. And we want that. We want someone who takes the harder path away from mainstream, idolization of people like, the fake Bill Nye. Those people are all actors, and it's sad that we allow ourselves to be led astray so easily. Okay, so it says here, when I heard rumors that he was finishing his monumental treatise on cannibalism, I paid him a visit at Arizona State in Tempe. The door to his office led me to a dim, dog-like space. We're going to skip some of this. Da, 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 da. After chatting with Turner for a while, I asked him about the heap of bones on his table. He said that they were from a site called San Brito Village on the San Juan River in New Mexico. It had been excavated 35 years before, when the area was to be drowned by Navajo Reservoir. Turner was now re-examining the bones for his book. All the makings of cannibalism are here, he said enthusiastically, pointing to the charnel heap. He lifted a plastic bag holding a piece of skull and stood the piece in his hand, cradling it. This is a good one to illustrate the cooking of the, a lot of the heads have this pattern on the back. Clearly, they were okay. And so you can see this part. I'm not going to read that out loud just because I don't want to. And yes, they did this to cook the what? You could see that in Faces of Death in the 1980s and 90s if you really want to ruin your eye gates. 18 to 26 years old, and it was a female. Okay, Turner was the first person to quantify what a set of cannibalized human remains look like. After this part, we're going to jump to etymology and then the actual Hopi prophecy. Because again, you have to know this stuff to understand why certain things are coming out and happening now in our age. Okay, so bones had to be broken open as if to get the marrow out. Bones had to have a cutting and sawing marks on them made by tools in a way that suggested dismemberment. This is how you know, right? This is how they study forensically. Some bones had to have anvil abrasions. These are faint parallel scratches. Okay, so you can see why that occurs. It's to get to the brain. Okay. Some of them had to be burned, showing that they were cooked. Okay. Most of the vertebrae and spongy bone had to be missing. Vertebrae and spongy bone are soft and full of marrow. They can be made into cakes. It's something that the Anasazi did with other mammal bones. So, something that we call what? What do you call it today? A hamburger, a bone cake, same thing. All right. So now I don't know that I want to read any more of that right now. You get the gist of where I'm going with some of this. So now we're going to look at a little bit of etymology just real briefly. Thank you for your patience. And we want to know where some of these words come from. So let's take a peek. Oh, don't do that. Should have stopped. Oh, and look, and they think they got jokes. They're funny. We were just talking about rats again, and we have one. Ha ha. Funny AI, funny. Says creator provides if the dude abides. Man, I love that. I think that is so cute. Creator provides if the man abides. Yeah, I don't have an account. Okay, so Anasazi, let's look at the word real quick. It's a name applied by Navajo neighbors to modern Pueblo peoples of the U.S. Southwest. Anasazi, the actual meaning of this word is ancestors of the enemies, or it means the enemy, as we just read. So I got to thinking, and I'm saying, man, why do these words look alike? Why do they look alike? Don't they look alike to you? They look alike to me. Ashkenazi, Central and Northern European Jews, as opposed to Sephardim, the Jews of Spain and Portugal. In 1839, the Hebrew Ashkenazim, plural of Ashkenaz, name of the eldest son of Gomer, Genesis, also the name of a nation mentioned in Jeremiah. Perhaps the people name is akin to Greek. See, they don't even know where it comes from. Perhaps. We got it right here in America, right? Almost. It's almost the same word. I'm going to show you something in a minute. Okay, so you see what it really means, who it means. Let's look up the word ash. So, why is ash important? Because ash is the name, allegedly, or the beginning part of the name of Asherah. She was allegedly the female consort of Yahweh, the Old Testament God of the Israelites. Some people believe that he is the one true God, the maker, creator, Yahuwah, Yahweh. Allegedly, he had a female consort. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm saying how originally it was taught that there was both male and female in the heavens as well. The man came first, but then split into two, and you had a male and a female. Okay? They say it more eloquently and lovely. If you can find an actual rabbi who is a real Jewish person who has reverence for the topic. Because again, I've noticed something about some of these people too who pretend to be something they're not. They're all foul. Like they're all gross. And I have a really hard time being around them because I'm wondering, like, whatever's going on today, they're not even good at pretending to be of mankind. Like the eating is gross, and I just mean manners and courtesy and etiquette for your fellow, your little bit of environment and the people around you. they're not godly. They say they're God's chosen, but some of them, and again, I'm not talking about any one group here, because you got a lot of Christians calling themselves the chosen as well. We're all chosen, just for different things. So Ash, if you break up the word Ashkenazi, okay? Ash is the female version, the female consort of the Lord, and it's also a tree. It's a big part of my testimony. I talk about it. This is why they say in this together, it's not together, it's to get her. They are after anything beautiful in this time, like communism usually does, has to be destroyed. Women that are beautiful are bad. They have to be destroyed. This is why I'm facing all these health crises and stuff, because I'm being poisoned. Like everything that wants to be godly, everything they think is pure or beautiful or of beauty, just like you're seeing with this jeans commercial. Like, did you never? Oh, he has good genes. Like I've always said that people, oh, you look young for your age. I must just have good genes. Must it came from my mom and dad. Why is that a bad thing? It's not. It's the beauty that's the problem, and they'll never say it out loud. But women everywhere, if you are not being used in the system, if you're not popping out their hybrid babies or doing something, and I love mothers. I am a mother. I love my children. There are some people who have signed off on certain things to do it, to get treated well in this time, to not be persecuted in this time. They don't look like they've given up on Christ, but behind the scenes, they're like Judas. They've already sold us all out. And it's time people came to terms with that. Okay, so Ash. Now if you look at Ken, and yes, we're looking at this because the word is so similar to the we just looked at it. To the tribe. We're looking at it because the word is so similar. Ken means to know or understand a thing, to ken a thing. I think it's Celtic, or it's actually it's Celtic, but everybody here says Celts. Ken, I think it's of Irish Kennen, to make known, but it also means something else: to become acquainted with, to know, to catch sight with. And we're going to read a little bit more on that, because when I looked it up via Google, I got two different range of sight. House used as a meeting place by thieves or other disreputable characters. So what if Ashkenazi, if that's one of the meanings, what if it's a house of thieves? What if they're telling you in the word that they're not actually of that descent? They're just pretenders because they're God's chosen. And they think if they are God's chosen, they will be left alone. Because look at what they're doing to people who come against or speak against Israel. And again, it's political. I have no care for what happens on the screen. I care about you as an individual, as a mother, as a child, as a father, as a daughter, as a sister. Of course, I relate to other women because I am one, right? I don't want to see this happen anymore. I want to see people awake. I want to see people simply say, peacefully resist and say, I do not consent. Lord, I just tell the Lord, I don't want to be a part of this. Show me what's really happening. And he'll show you, just like he's shown so many of us. But you have to understand that it's happening. Okay, so Ken can also mean a den of thieves. And I wanted you to see that. Ashkenazi. Okay. Now, it also means backwards. According to when I looked it up in Google, it also meant like backwards, which I thought was really interesting because they do everything backwards. Everything. And you don't notice it right away, but if you've read the Bible, they do everything the opposite of what it says to do. Everything. It says to get married, don't adulterer. They do both those things. It says to don't lie. They lie about everything all day long. They'll tell you they like something when they actually hate it. And again, I know because I've lived with this all my life. Today, most people are calling these individuals narcissists without ever realizing they're not fully human. Again, some of these beings gave away their humanity to have these little tricks and parlor tricks and be able to fool people. So now we're going to go back to the book and to the prophecy and to hear from the Hopis themselves about what they think about all of this. Let's make sure that everything pops up. Good, sweet. Okay, so this is exactly where we left off. I've not gone any further. Okay, so now they are going to go over the actual prophecies. So I'm just going to go back here. It says prophetic timing right there. Okay. Now, let me see. Ooh. I want to make sure you guys know where we're at. So these are prophetic ifs. Did I? Hold on one second. Okay, so prophecies that are directly related to the Hopi help us as well, but they're not all directed to the Hopi. Now, this is prophetic hope. At the same time, we cannot deny that the prophecies of the Bible have proven their accuracy, and we know that a few prophets, like well-known Nostradamus, have compiled impressive track records. His interpreters admit that of his more than 1,000 prophecies, 800 continued to divide translations that are acceptable to everyone. He appears to have made a few inaccurate predictions, and that's what people don't understand. Like, there's two different things happening here: prophet, prophecy, and seer. A regular person can prophesy, like I can prophesy if God put something in my heart, but that doesn't mean I'm a prophet all the time, right? There are people who are prophets and live their lives like that, but they're not seers. They don't get visions all the time. They warn people in a general sense to repent because they know by reading scripture what can happen if you don't. Not all prophets are seers, okay? And not all seers are prophets. Some seers will work with demons and they won't tell you a thing about repenting. So do you see how closely the counterfeit looks real? You see why you have to practice your discernment. Watch the news with the sound down. I've said this for years and it works. I've seen people try it and they've come back and told me, wow, that worked and opened my eyes in a way that I didn't think was possible. Watch the news or news stories, whatever you watch, with the sound down. Don't let them frame the story for you. You watch the video, see what your eyes see. Don't depend on somebody else to tell you. Like, those reaction videos aren't the best because those people are framing those stories. They are damage control. This is why you're seeing content farms pop up everywhere, because they want to control how you see those stories. And I know you love some of these YouTubers. I do too. They're funny, they're charming, they're charismatic. That's the point. You wouldn't believe them if they weren't. All right. Okay. So let's go. John Hogue, one of Nostradamus' foremost interpreters. Okay, so we did read that part. Right here, prophetic ifs. We are seeing that the Hopi prophecies separate and distinguish themselves from others. Taken together, the way they tell us that because of our sinful natures, the Creator has no option but to deal harshly with us. Yet at the same time, He has provided us with a way to redeem ourselves and find an escape from any dilemma. Even now, we are not exhausted. Even now, we have not exhausted the ways in which the Hopi prophecies work. There are more. When Masao gave his prophecies, instructions, and warnings to the Hopi at Arabi, they were often conditioned by ifs and maybes. I do that all the time. God will tell me something, or I will bring it to you guys, or He'll show me some, my eyes will be opened about something. And, if we don't stop doing this, this might happen because it's what happened in the past and God's putting it on my heart to talk about it. You got to be really careful because you don't want to talk for God if you're not talking for God, right? This is why the elders often preface or punctuate their statements with conditioners such as, if we are fortunate, this will happen, or if we are not fortunate, this will happen. This is neither indecision nor an admission of not knowing the answers. It is a recognition of how Hopi prophecy works, and it says that the final outcome does not rest in human hands, it rests in the hands of the Creator Himself. So no matter how dark the topics get, no matter how dark the truths are that you have to look at, you have to know certain things are happening so that you can avoid those pitfalls, so that you can protect the ones you love, your children or the naive or the infirm. You can protect them from some of these things happening to them, because we can wear as many suits and ties as we want. We can use as many forks and knives as we want. We can cross our legs and wear the right lipstick and powder our nose. It doesn't matter. We have to change in the heart. It doesn't matter how they dress it up. And that's what I think Philip K. Dick was getting to as well. It doesn't matter what they say anymore. Look at what's in front of you. we're like right after World War II or something. Like this is the fallout of we are in dystopia land already. But most people don't, like, things are still chugging along. So most people don't see that yet. Now, it's not just Hopi prophecy that operates like this. You see this, and I say it all the time in the story with Jonah. Jonah is towed and drug, kicking and screaming all the way to Nineveh to tell them to repent. And what happens? They do repent. And no, Jonah didn't want them to repent because now he's like, Lord, they're going to call me a false prophet. What have you done to me? And God's like, what is better, having all this blood on your hands or dealing with some false accusations? He's like, you and I know the truth. And unfortunately, Nineveh didn't listen for long, and they did end up getting destroyed, just not at that moment. So you see, prophecy is a warning. When people have, what do they call that? Premonitions, and they don't normally have premonitions, right? They're not a regular person who experiences these things. That's when we should kind of start to pay attention. And we're having a lot of that happen all around everywhere at this point. Check here. Nobody's chatting, so we'll continue. Now, again, prophecy is meant so we can change our ways and avoid the worst part of the maybe this will happen, right? We want the if we're fortunate, this will happen. That's the resultant path we should take. If we want that happy ending, and most you're not going to want to hear this either. If you want that happy ending, we're going to have to say goodbye to the internet. I do think everything was God's first, but obviously we can't use it responsibly. You've got too many people addicted to too many things, right? We're meant to operate in a certain type of way, and we're still fighting that. But if you operate in the way that you're meant to, you will find that inner contentment because that's what you were created to do in the first place. Hopi prophecy functions as a stage play, fascinating. In Hopi prophecy, life functions as a global play in which all of us are the actors. That's cool. There are possible things that can happen in each act, but we ourselves determine what of these it will be by what we choose to do with our free will, our agency. The course that the act follows is determined by an initial choice and by subsequent choices. The traditionalists believe we are in the midst of the final act today. As the fourth cycle of the world closes down and we can shape and reshape its form if we make the right choices. In Hopi prophecy, there are no fated endings that are set in concrete, but the actual end of each act and the beginning of the next are left to the Creator to decide. He also determines the conclusion of the final act of the play. Although he makes this decision in consultation with his principal assistant spirits, angels to some of us, including Mother Earth. That could be Asherah. We don't know. We know that they were made to break and bust on all their idols, right? But we also know that the Old Testament is questionable because Christ ourselves told us that the scribes were liars. Most people miss that part. See, you should ask yourself why certain individuals want to whip us back into the Old Testament. And some don't even know that it's an agenda, but it is an agenda, okay? Because that was not always God they were consulting, not the true God. There's a pretender who calls himself God, but is not God. And we know this. It's what he's always done since the beginning. He's always called himself God, except now he's got a whole bunch of people believing he is God, and he's not. And I won't call him that. And he's not God of this world, even. He might be, the system might be his domain, but he's not the God of this. No, not the earth. No, I won't ever say that. Okay, so but the actual end of each act and the beginning of the next are left to the creator to decide. He also determines the conclusion of the final act of the play, although he makes his decision in consultation with his helpers, right? Therefore, the ultimate blessing or punishment to be rendered is one that, in their combined minds, will be appropriate in light of human behavior. Since all of us who are alive are in the play at once, we face yet another question. Human choices are bound to be different. Right. What is your utopia isn't always my utopia, right? My utopia might be full of like cartoon characters and Snoopy and Snow White, and it might be very juvenile compared to like somebody else that would want it to be like casinos and stuff like that. Everybody's utopia is different. This is why we need a common standard if we're going to have a society. You can't have a society if you don't have a common standard. The problem is they want us to go back to the Old Testament and to 613 laws, which no one can keep. No one was ever meant to keep all of them at the same time. Some are societal, some are moral, and some weren't meant to be. Like people can't get everybody's going with the agenda. You're still following these people on, that have big channels and tell you like they're godly and they're the ones that you need to listen to, and maybe sometimes they don't even have that many followers. They just buy them and make it look that way so that then more people will follow them. The deception is deep. Okay, so since all of us who are alive, will it be the creator or will it be the two-hearted forces of evil? That's our choice. Will it be the good Masal? And I think Masal is their word for Messiah, right? Hamashiach, Messiah, Mashiach, Masal. Not too far. Or the bad Masal. For instance, the Hopi, and then you have the bad Masal here, right? Enli and Enki, if you want to go to the Sumerian stories. But what does that mean? You have the true ruler of the earth, which is Christ, because the God passes down his kingdom to his son, and then you have the pretender, the one who wants it. It was also a son, but he's dark, he's gone rogue, he's gone evil, right? But he still says he's God, but he is not God. The devil will always tell you that he is more powerful than he is. He will always come off as a god to you. All right? You got to be very careful about that because you got people running around doing things they shouldn't be doing and getting consent from people that is totally manipulated and fabricated, and they will pay for that very soon themselves. So, for instance, the Hopi have been told by their elderly elders that the time has come when they must end their facilitating. They must choose now whether they will follow the creator's way or the Bahana way of materialism. Bahana way of materialism, that also reminds me of the Hindu god, the Buddhist god, right? Isn't his name something like that? The rock, smell what the rock is cooking. Brahma bull. That's what it sounds like to me. It reminds me of that. Okay. They must choose now whether they will follow the creator's way or the Bahana way of materialism. Once this basic choice is made by any of us, however, what follows may be involved in complex. Do we want to hear this? This might affect like people like me who want to be like done with certain technological advances. Okay. So let's see. Free choice remains, and the two seeds are still within us. Walking the narrow beam will never be easy, for temptations are constantly placed before us by the two-hearteds. And if those don't work, pressure follows. Two-hearteds, it means kind of how we all are right now, right? We all want to do good. We all say we want to do good. We want to be good. But when it comes to actually doing it and following through and obeying, we still do things we shouldn't be doing. We gossip. We are harsh to each other. We judge hastily and not righteously. We judge by material, by what you can see, and not by the heart. That's just the basics of what we do wrong on a daily basis. We use things that we shouldn't be using. We look at things we shouldn't be looking at. Like, it's time we realized our own condition so that maybe we can change that. Because even those of us who say, yeah, we're God's children, we're still not behaving fully like God's children. I don't think God's children would use these devices. Like, I just don't. Not at all. And that's why they're allowing God to be talked about, is because they still have you hooked. They have you looking at the screen. They have you not participating in your life. They have you not fellowshipping with other actual human beings. So they have us right where they want us, in a sense. In each instance, however, the punishment will always fit the crime. In a sense, we ourselves establish what it will be, and pretending ignorance about this will not change the situation. Gosh, I say that all the time to people. According to the LDS beliefs, like if you tell unbelievers certain things, they will now be judged by that, and it's not fair because they're not God's child, right? They've not decided to be God's child, so they shouldn't be judged as harshly. Because yeah, we will be judged more harsh than the pagans, right? But we'll all be judged. Well, wait a second. I thought that Christ was enough. Well, then why later in the book does it say that it says that pagans are going to be judged, that we will be judged more harshly, and that teachers will be judged the harshest, right? So wait a second, if you have Christ, then why did these even come into play? So you got to be very, it doesn't mean you can be a crap person just because you are a Christian or any religion. Doesn't mean you can be a crap person and hide behind that name, which is again what we have with the synagogue of Satan happening now. In response to the question as to when any of the prophesied things will occur, Dan usually says it may be in your lifetime or in your children or in your children's children. We could take this as an indication that it might be 1,000 years from now before the worst of them happen, and that we really have nothing to worry about. Remember, this book is already a little old that we're reading. Haven't we say, time and time again, proven ourselves to be creative people who rise to the occasion and conquer critical situations? You bet we are, we answer. Our human resourcefulness and ingenuity has always been impressive. So shouldn't we conclude that we have plenty of time and that we should not just go on doing the same things we are doing now? But time and events are accelerating and problems are growing exponentially. They magnify themselves at an amazing rate of speed day by day. And what we have accomplished in correcting them so far has hardly dented our entanglements. As for the actual magnitude of the problems we face, what do we know the truth about? Who can we rely on to tell us how it really is with any dangerous situation? Will industry? Governments? In any event, time and indecision are not the points Dan is making when he speaks of alternate possibilities. He is simply admitting that he has no way of knowing which it will be. How the play goes all depends upon the choices made by succeeding generations and individuals. Free choice. Free choice leaves wiggle room for God, which is a good thing because he is bound by his word. It leaves us room to mess up or to do things maybe to overcome our enemies. You know, we're the weaker ones. We have the less numbers. There's less of us than there are of them. On paper, we look like the losers, but it's very possible it could be a case of the underdog. But your free will is going to determine which trajectory you're going to take. But to say that you don't have a choice, well, I wasn't given a choice if I wanted to keep my job. Well, why is your job that important to you? All that was Event 201 was a dry run to see who would buckle and who wouldn't. Well, that's not all it was. You're seeing the effects of it now. I told you, every time they say they have the cure for something and they want to give you a cocktail in your arm for it. If it is the cure, for example, of the big C, it is my theory and opinion and speculation that that is actually what causes it. This is why we're seeing an outbreak right now. And you will realize that most of the people who are getting that right now are Christ followers, or at least believers in Christ, are the ones who are being persecuted with the cocktails that they mandate people put in their arms. You have a choice. I didn't have a choice. I had those things done to me without my consent, not even in a facility, in my bedroom of all places where I pay to live. And it doesn't matter how many times they tell me, no, that's not what happened. You had a bad dream. If you're a woman, you're always lying. It's either a dream or you're on drugs or you're not taking enough drugs or you're drinking or it's because you quit drinking or it's because it's a Tuesday. They don't want to hear it. I didn't have a choice. All of you have choice. You have free agency. If you want to survive this time, you got to let go of, oh, I wouldn't get to keep my job. So what? So what? You want your life? You want your soul? You want to, some people aren't saved yet. Some people need to live longer so that they can grow spiritually and evolve spiritually as spirits. Nobody else has a right to take that away from another individual. Nobody. God forbid that person has to either be brought back, go through purgatory, whatever it is God decides to do with that person, because their spirit isn't ready yet. I do believe that all things happen that are supposed to happen and we meet our purpose some way, somehow. But it's quite obvious that people cut us down in the midst of our lives as well. Everyone has a choice. Here's a newsletter quote that will serve as an example. When a Hopi sees things happening, his response is simple. It appears that we are now at the beginning of something. All you need to know now is what these things are. The Hopi also know that as choice change A given prophetic fulfillment might be redirected, pushed back, or watered down. Exactly. If you change your behavior, the situation itself or the destinies of human varies, they say, with time and space. In the next chapter, we will learn what these signs are and how the Hopi make use of them. Their sophistication may surprise outsiders who think of the traditionalist Hopi as uneducated and only able to do things by rote, but they do surprisingly well and, in fact, are impressively sophisticated. The need for self examination. Another important point for us to recognize is that when the traditionalist Hopi know that things are not going well or that danger exists, they look within themselves for answers. Yes, I love hearing that. And not in a new age way either. Like in a, okay, I have no other choice at this point. I can only depend on God and I don't have a telephone to reach him. So I'm going to talk to him in my head or in my heart or verbally, and I'm going to hope that he answers back. They examine themselves and then do something about what they learn. Likewise, and that's the thing, we have no right. And this is what makes me hate these other beings so badly. I do think God has freed us because so many of us are being called, and it is that time for the true people of the lost tribes to head back to their lands. And that's probably why I'm being called to Arizona. Um, and that's why they're showing you all these fires, all these things are happening because they don't want you going to that area. Because the second that we start stepping foot there, prophecy really in truth unfolds. This is why I think I've been kept in one area, because they know certain things will happen when you leave your area, or you I don't think everybody is going to be able to get into a place like the Four Corners when it is actually the end day. I don't think if you have the right blood type, you're going to walk right in there. I think it's going to be a spiritual thing, like Saint Mary of Egypt. She was so corrupted and I laughed because she admitted like she had a lot of nookie because she wanted to. And then she couldn't walk into a church. And that's when she changed. She physically couldn't go in there. I think that's how the land's going to be. It's not going to let in anyone who isn't meant to be there, who does not belong there. And I think that is how people will be protected too. I mean, it's kind of ingenious of the Lord. But you have to have, and I don't mean like blood spilling or anything like that, because that's how portals work too. They want to spill blood. No, you just have to have the right blood to get through, or you won't get through. Now, you also have to have a pure heart. If you don't have a pure heart, then I don't think you're going to get through. Don't ask me how I know these things. And I said think, and I don't think, and maybe, like, that's what I'm getting from all my time examining myself and talking with the Lord mentally. That's my understanding thus far. If something extrapolates that, I will amend it and let you know. Okay, so likewise, our problems today are more often than not the result of our own acts, thoughts, and desires, and the consequences have been exacerbated by our inexcusable lackness in admitting our personal responsibilities and doing something about them. In a global sense, we have even jeopardized our own existence by waiting too long before we have faced facts and acted upon them. Like Trash Island, what are we still doing making plastic when we have islands of trash that are going to be here for 200 years? I don't think about it. I don't have to deal with it. I don't know what I have to do to break through the walls of people's cognitive dissonance. And that's why I mentioned that dream the other night. Like I was trying to break through stone with a chisel, like I was in Roman times. And it just kept like, it was like Minecraft. It just kept repopulating. Like it wouldn't go away. I was making no headway. And that's how I feel sometimes making these videos. So please learn something here, heed something, you know, and I'm not teaching here. I'm passing along information that God is giving me. I'm doing the best that I can with it. Examine yourself, your heart, change and make adjustments where they're needed. I'm sure you're aware of them. Don't lie to yourself anymore because nobody's there when you're in the bathroom by yourself looking in the mirror thinking, what can I change today? It's just you and the one who made you. There's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about. You don't have to worry about putting on a show for a camera. Just talk to the Lord inside and say, okay, how can I change this? And I don't buy that everybody doesn't have internal dialogue, because if you think before you act, then you have internal dialogue. You think about what you're going to do with your day and then you carry out and do it. Like, I don't see how you can't have internal. I don't know. That always trips me out. Anyway, so it is not fair to indict everyone when accusations such as these are made. Oh, right here. In a global sense, we have been jeopardized our own existence by waiting too long to act upon certain things. We've also do a great deal of compromising. Hence, like, I didn't have a choice. I had to take it. I had to have my job, or no, you don't have to take it. You don't. Okay, life will be a little hard for a little while. You'll still have your health. You'll still have your temple intact in the way it's supposed to be. If we are participating in something we know to be a sin, we are delighted when some adroit social authority finds a way to excuse it. We must change this pattern and begin to develop the kind of honesty that Masao expected from the traditionalists. It's not fair to indict everyone when accusations such as these are made. Some individuals and groups are making careful choices and performing Herculean efforts to rectify environmental and other problems. It is just that there aren't nearly enough of them to accomplish what must be done in the seemingly short period of time we have before the forced cycle closes down. I use the term seemingly because the closing time can be pushed back. I use that too. Like, people seem to have lost their free will, people seem to have lost their souls, but I don't know that that's true. It just looks that way. Every one of us who puts the Hopi survival kit to work will become part of the effort. We can understand now why the Hopi prophecies, unlike so many others, have no dates attached to them and why they are always couched in general terms. Everything is laid out by the Creator, but options are there and nothing is settled. Specifics regarding prophetic fulfillments are carefully avoided. And it is only when a prophetic possibility begins to kick in that the elders can say, it might happen now, but we will wait and see, or it appears we are in the midst of something. They say this, however, with confidence. From the long list of prophetic fulfillments that have already taken place, they know that one day the rest will follow. What is predicted will not evaporate. Sooner or later, certain of the prophecies assigned by the Creator will come to pass, and in the end, the fourth cycle of the world will close. In a way, the options would seem to be an unsettling factor. In order to prepare in advance, we need targets and target dates. In chapter 11, we learned there is a way to narrow down the time periods by viewing Hotavilla as a microcosm that helps us establish intensities, trends, and sequences. Hold, please. As a microcosm, what does that mean? Okay, so this means they can look at this one area, right? How most places look at, like, Israel, or some places will look to New York. New York sets the trends. Whatever New York is doing, that's what the rest of the state or city or nation will do, right? They set the trends. So Hotavilla is a microcosm. They're saying in this one village, if they just pay attention to what's happening around them in their village, it is a microcosm of what's going on in the bigger world. That is why I do what I do. I guess that's a good way to phrase it. I'd never heard this before, but when I said I started doing this because God asked me, but also because it seemed like my life and the trauma that I went through, like, vomited up on the world stage, like the safety vests and the Sharpies and France and the Olympics, like everything I love and everything that happened to me ended up somehow mixed in with these current events. That's what they're saying here, right? Look at your own individual life. What is happening in your home? Are you having people in your own household that you are at each other's throats? What is your town like? This is why I tell you to look local. What is going on in your local politics? What is your local town? What is the climate? The climate, not weather. What is the climate, the social climate of your town and area and family? If you're seeing certain things take place that are different and you're noticing things are happening and they're patterned, but they are new patterns that people have, then it's time to look at these bigger world stage prophecies and consider they may be possible. Everybody in the Zionist community is doing it the wrong way. They are looking at the screens and the televisions and the computers to predict, and the stars, right? And Israel to predict when prophecy is going to be fulfilled. That's not the right way to do it, guys. They could be lying about everything and everything could be hunky dory and perfectly normal. Now, we know that's not the case because we can look around and see people are acting strange and not like regular people. And it's like they're pretending to be human. They don't remember basics of being human, right? So Hotavilla is a village that they use as a microcosm in the same way that I talk about you using your own life to judge where we're at in biblical times. Don't look to that screen to tell you, because they are always going to tell you the end is near, panic, be in fear. Because a populace is easier to control when they are in fear, because when you're in fear, you panic. And when you panic, you rush through your life and you make hasty, bad decisions every time. Remember this: God will never ask you to make a hasty decision. If there's a need for that in your life, it's because you ignored the warnings that the creator maker, that your maker was giving you. So look at your own life to determine what's going on really in the world. Do not look at the screen. Do not look at what they say is Israel, because America is Israel. So Hotavella, they look at that one village, their home village. They look around and say, yeah, things look crazy on TV, but not yet here, right? They look around them at nature, at people, and people are a part of nature, right? You see how nature is acting and interacting and behaving. If it is still doing things like everything is normal and copacetic, then things are probably okay. But we know that's not the case at this point. When we consider this, however, we must never forget that the following instructions will keep us in a perpetual state of readiness, so that whenever a fulfillment comes, we will be prepared for it. There will be a special and last minute things to do, but that is all. And all of this hollow boasting? You will need to follow the essence of the Hopi pattern of life to find out. It is evident that, compared to the nature of other prophecies, the Hopi form is unique. It is broader in scope, more comprehensive in its details, and carries with it constantly the greatest possible hope. We always have a reason to choose rightly and to continue working, which is what the elders and their ancestors have done so consistently. And working is working the land. They are keeping their vow to the creator, the Hopi people, and we read about this in the last video. They are keeping the vow that they made to continue to work. What is their work? To work the land, to tend to the land. We are caretakers. A lot of us don't want to be caretakers, but that's what we are. And when we operate in that function, we are more content. We have more success because it's how we're meant. That's what we were created for. So everything flows naturally. When we go against nature is when you see all these strange Mandela effect and things start to happen. It's us doing it because we're going against consent. We're trying to force other people to live the way we want to live. Everybody does it. And everybody has to collectively stop it. We have to all collectively, just like little girl Cindy Lou from Whoville. We're here, we're here. We have to tell God, hey, we're awake, we see. Have mercy. We'll show us the way. And this is why I say we got to go the Hopi way of life. What are they doing? They're planting. They know to determine the daily weather by what the wind is doing, by what the leaves are doing, right? If you don't know the basics of your own area, where are the squirrels usually at? Where are the dogs usually at? Where are the stray cats? Where are the birds? Are they all acting normal? Is there an exorbitant amount of animal deaths in your area? These are things we can look at that are right in front of us, and we don't have to rely on deceivers on a screen. Those people have never met you. You've never met them. They're not going to buy your groceries or cook your dinner or take care of you when you're sick, and vice versa. So what insurance do they have to tell us the truth? We're not the ones that pay them. The corporations pay them. So why would they tell us the truth? They're going to say whatever they're told to say. And the same goes for us. Those people aren't ever going to come in our homes. They're not going to rear your children. They're not going to tend you while you're sick and you're out of work. They're not going to pay your rent if you are sick and your health goes down. So why are we voting for them? Why are we listening to them? We are never going to succeed in a system that was made by deceivers who say they are God's children and chosen, but are not. It is their system. Of course, we're not going to succeed in it. We need to make our own. Is all of this hollow boasting? Da, da, da. We have a reason to choose rightly and to continue working. They have never and will never set a date for the end of the world and then go into seclusion on a mountaintop to pray and wait for its fulfillments. I continue to be impressed by the fact that the Hopi prophecies predate most, if not all, others by hundreds of years. I'm also influenced by the fact that the prophecies and other information were given to a small, remote, and relatively unimportant group who, for the most part, could not in their time period have had any idea of what Messiah was talking about when he made references to other races, modern accomplishments, global wars, and global situations such as those existing today. The only thing I don't like is the globe thing, because I think Hopis think we live on a globe. Do I need to change again? I mean, the firmament is round. I know the firmament is round, and the earth is round, and the firmament is kind of a globe. The earth is a pancake. Pretty sure. Anyways. Ow. Okay. It is worth noting that this priceless information was placed in the keeping of the very Native American people who would outlast all the other tribes in North America in preserving their traditional ways and vows. If this responsibility had been given to any other tribe, its keepers would be long gone by now, and there would be no one left to pick up the torch. Hotavilla Village and its few surviving elder traditionalists are the very last of all the Native American cultures to go down. When they do, as prophecy says they will, the auspicious end of something glorious and worthwhile will have been reached in more ways than we know. We are all going to be poorer for that. I would say if like the last person in that village passes away, like that is when things are going to really kick off. As you read what the elders have to say about all this, you will learn just to recognize what things they have looked for in order to make their judgment, and you will begin to look for the same things. The Hotavella book will be helpful to you here. Da 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 da. Are Hopi prophecies more reliable than those given by other prophets? I have my reasons for believing they are, and my guess is that as you have read between the lines, you have suspected this. For one thing, I prefer their sources compared to human origins. Also, their track record to date is perfect. I like the fact that they fit the nature of the God we meet in the Bible. The gospel predictions of the end times are much like those of the Hopi, except that by comparison, the Bibles are brief and summary, taking up little more than a few pages of text in both the Old Testament and New Testament hold. Why is that? My guess, my theory thus far, is again that if I were Satan, I'm always doing this, but if I were Satan and I wanted to confuse the issue and I wanted to delay things from happening, I would take all of the books or the information and I would tear them asunder and I would toss them here and there and everywhere. I think that the Bible should include this. I think that these probably should be included in the Christian Bible, but they were left out because, well, they're not Christian. They don't know Christ. Well, did you introduce Christ to them? Did you sit down with your prophecies and theirs? No, you just went and had a council somewhere. So again, I don't agree with everything that the church has done. I don't agree with everything anyone has done, as I'm sure you don't. You have your own mind and opinions as well. So I do think that they probably, and if you look at the Quran, and I know you don't want to hear this, but the Quran also really parallels the Bible, and they all have bits that the other one is missing. So when I say compare and contrast and parallels, I mean goes along with and fills in the blanks for us. That's what the Quran does, and apparently it's what the Hopi prophecies do too, because the Bible is missing those. And the Bible seems to only have included certain things at the end. I don't know. Again, the Hopi, the Navajo, they all seem like they're even called tribes still. They still call themselves tribes. And you have the 12 tribes in the Bible. So again, somebody simply did not want us knowing who we were and going back there and because when we hit the land again, it's prophesied when God's actual chosen people, when the lost tribes go back to where they're supposed to be going, or supposed to be, that's when things are happening. And they're telling you on TV, well, it's over here, it's in Israel, look here, look over here. Oh, people are being saved every day to Jesus, look over here. None of that's real. Almost none of it. They're all crisis actors. They all that's their job. That's what they do. And again, some of them have gotten special tricks from the Navajos that lets them change their appearance. Jesus did include instructions for living and warnings, once again making the comparison of the two a favorable one. And I've already expressed some thoughts regarding a connection between Jesus and Masal. I think it's the same individual, but I'm afraid that is the best they can be, just thoughts. It is time for you to be introduced to the Hopi prophecies. The prophecies that finally, gosh, man, I'm gonna have to do another. The prophecies that follow are organized in a time sequence and divided into three categories: those that have been fulfilled, and part of those that are being fulfilled and addressed in this chapter. The rest of those that are being fulfilled and those that are yet to be fulfilled are cited in chapter 7. Together with the signs the Hopi watch for that tell them when something important is about to happen, my comments regarding some of the prophecies that need clarification are given in italics. For comparison with the Hopi prophecies, some of Nostradamus' prophecies regarding the future are also given in italics. The prophecies are given as they are in the newsletters. I think you will enjoy the quoted material more than you would edited versions. Yukiyuma knew all of this on that day in 1921 when he sat there in his jail cell and wished that the agent and the colonel would listen to him. As you read the prophecies, you may find yourself wishing that all of us had learned about them years ago. Prophecies already fulfilled. What Hotevilla Village did was in accordance with space and time and the guidelines set by the prophecies long ago. They said, should we, along the way, find ourselves keeping out of step with the great creator, we must stop and think what we have become careless. Then we must act in some way not to follow those who become tangled in what we are told not to do. So you see, they don't just have prophecies, they have solutions. And this is why that's why I dig this book here and the way this author allows all of this to flow as a story, but also they give they give solutions to your behaviors, right? Like, hey, stop looking at where you're not supposed to be looking at, and everything will go back into alignment. And it's not going to happen, but can you imagine if we could get everybody to repent of like watching, you know, nudity and stuff online? Like, what would happen if we could get everybody to repent of that? And how more productive those people would be, not just sitting staring at a screen all day again. If people would repent of that and want to repent of that, it might stop some of these things from happening. Okay, so do we want to look at the ones that already happened? You guys probably want to hear about the ones that are coming. So we can do it backwards if you want. It doesn't bother me. Because, oh, there's the UN. Are you okay? I got to take these guys out soon. I did not want to do another video. I mean, I knew I was going to have to do another one, but I wanted to get to the parts you all wanted to actually hear. Yes, I do have to go, and I have to cook my son lunch. And I have to go potty. Oh. I drank creatine this morning, so it's a little. Before their migration began, Masal let it be known, though perhaps not by direct instructions, that whoever would find him first would be the leader here at Arabi, which became the mother village. Okay. One day, Hopi will encounter people of other races with ways that are different than the Hopi's own. They will erect their own kingdom on Hopi land. They will pose as good-hearted. Their words will be charming. They will multiply like ants. Sound familiar? A prophecy told of a bear sleeping somewhere in the northern part of what is now called Europe, who would awaken at a certain time and walk to the northern part of this country, where he would wait. Later, the Bear clan, who found the bear, took over from the Bow clan of the Hopi at Arabi, because the Bow clan chief of the past had contaminated his standing by taking part in the changing of the life pattern. Oh. Human beings have many evil ambitions in their hearts that they will pursue throughout their lives. There will be roads in the sky. There will be moving houses of iron. Moving houses of iron. There will be horseless carriages, which we have. Moving houses of iron. Is that ships of some kind? Tanks? No, I mean it's a house though. Roads in the sky, which you kind of already have. Men will have the ability to speak through cobwebs. Well, what is this? This is the internet, the World Wide Web, and we're speaking through it. Men will have the ability to speak through space. And we are speaking through space and time right now. Men's clothing will be taken over by women. Women's skirts will be raised above the knee, devaluing the sacred body of the female, indicating that many things will be devalued from the original. I got shorts on now that are way shorter than that because they're running shorts. And I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. It's hot. Yeah. Okay. I'm convicted. Okay. One day, a strange people will appear in our midst, people who create man in their own image. Once given his language and knowledge, our own people will become the instrument by which he will try to rule over us and carve the rest of us into his image. Our own people will become his tools, and he will make certain they do a good job. Wow, that sounds like Revelation, the book of Revelation. But if we remain strong and firmly rooted, we will not be reshaped, whereas others will slump because they are rootless. So when the tests come, we must possess the strength to preserve ourselves. And people like me, this is why they didn't want us having roots. This is why all of our family abandoned us. This is why targeted individuals are targeted. Because from day one, we were different. From day one, they've just been keeping us in a place, making the most of us as a resource, making sure that we don't go to our true homeland and bring these prophecies to fulfillment. How much you want to bet that's what it is? Because I have been kept in this spot, like gaslighted by my mom and dad playing good cop, bad cop. I've never left the East Coast. Nobody like whenever we went on vacation, it was always East. It was never West. Interesting. And that's the thing, when you don't have a group, when you are a lone wolf, you're easy pickings. You're easier to tempt, you're easier to buy off, or you're easier to get rid of. Um, I'm here to tell you that I don't really have many roots that I know of. The people that I could contact today, I wouldn't want to disturb their lives, with any type of drama or whatever. Like, hey, I need help. And, I've been abused all these years. Like, it's shameful. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to tell people that. I'm doing it now because it's been a very long time and because that oppressive spirit is no longer in the house. There's one here, but it's not the same one. And again, that's how I know these people I'm dealing with aren't the originals. I can't believe I'm saying things like this, but look, their prophecies are very similar. As time goes by, for self-gain, people will struggle for power to rule. Each race will create a different system to go by once their leadership becomes distorted by mistakes or destructive ways. Through the inspiration and the forewarning of the Great Spirit, man could foretell events centuries in advance and therefore know that one day strange people would come ashore to take over the land through the inspiration and the forewarning of the Great Spirit. See, so that's not divining when you talk to the actual creator maker God. And that's just their words for it. We got to get past the point where we're divided by words. We have more in common with these tribes and with Muslims than we do with the people who say they're Christ followers but have sold out for money and fame and popularity. And I don't care how many times people come at me about it. Christ was not a money man. He was not about that at all. I don't even think he touched it. Other people dealt with it and that's how they got around. But Christ was Christ. I don't think he would have needed certain things. I don't know. As our friend the Michigander says, Creator provides if the dude abides. I love that. Okay, so long before Bahana, white man, came upon our land while Masal still walked among us, he gave the Hopi special knowledge. He gave us instructions and prophecies, indicating that along the way many things would come to pass. Then he pointed out a path, a way to travel that was like the narrow edge of a knife. Sound like the Bible, anybody? The narrow way or the broad way? Broadway leads to hell. Isn't it funny how New York has a road called Broadway? Can't make this stuff up. But they tell you the Bible's so fake, yet everything is based on it. It's like the programming manual. It's like the cheat book for the realm or video game that is life. And no, I don't think we're a video. I don't think we're a simulation. I think we might live inside God's computer, that it's built like a computer, but I don't think we are a simulation. Okay. Along the way, he said he would face many evil obstacles, blah, blah. Okay. I want to see. We're going to take a quick look and see. Prophecies being fulfilled today. The beginnings of the new age of the prophecies of tomorrow have begun. It was said among Bahana, white people, the people with the cross will appear in our land. They will be kind and helpful with good hearts. As foretold, divines emerged and expanded west, north, and south, causing sudden changes throughout the country. Tragic events developed, causing unrest throughout the land. They have They have a forked tongue, two faces, two hearts, both black and white at the same time. As their way unfolds, the Hopi see that their ancient fathers were right in their words. This reminds me of the deceivers today. This reminds me of the people, and I'm tired of hearing American Christ followers turn to this Zionism and support genocide. If you are a Christ follower, you don't get down like that. And people still haven't seen it yet. They're telling us, right? Now they're telling the Hopi too. They have two faces, two hearts. They're both black and white. Black and white checkerboard. Masons. Masons are the relatives of the fallen ones, the Nephilim. Some of them are the Nephilim. None of them tell the truth. We need to be living as the Hopi live if you're actually a Christ follower. I know, and people don't want to hear this. It's not a popular message. It's not supposed to be popular. We've got to put down the phones, the tech. We got to maybe get rid of electricity itself. And I'm talking that's initially just to fast, just to get your body away from the signals that are sent out by all of this. I'm talking a purging. We need to purge. And I don't mean like the movie. I mean yourself. That's the only one we have the right to purge is ourselves. Get all this junk out and don't vomit it up on anybody else or in anybody else's life. Deal with it. Control, if you don't want to be two-hearted, you don't want to be double-minded, you don't want to be someone who's considered a deceiver with a forked tongue, and you don't want to be outed, because yes, eventually everybody is, no matter who's in charge, everybody's going to be exposed. It's just going to happen. It doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you believe, doesn't matter if you want judged or not. There are things we have done that directly interfere with nature. You'll say, well, I'm not going to be judged like them. I'm not one of them. But you are, you see, because you've done nothing to stop it. You've not used your voice. You've not stopped participating. You've not opted out. You'll still go to your daily job. You'll still go back to that box you live in. And I'm not saying that houses are wicked. I'm not, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying in the beginning to be done with this system, because everyone who uses it is going to be judged as a part of it because we're participating. We know that trafficking is happening. There is not going to be an excuse now. You know that our whole system is built on the buying and selling of human beings. It always has been and it still is. And so all of us who are participating in this are going to be judged for it. And again, I know it's not a popular message. I know you don't want to hear it. But God, that's how God is with me. He tells me things I don't want to hear. If you don't want to be seen as one of these people, if you don't want to be judged like one of them, human beings will have evil ambitions in their hearts that they will pursue throughout their whole lives. For thousands of years, we hope you have lived in villages by a pattern established by the Great Spirit. All the prophecies are being fulfilled, including the period of great trial, sounds like tribulation, in which the world will be engulfed by efforts to force one's will upon others. Imagine that. If you are one of these people, I beg you to stop. Stop trying to insist that other people live the way you think is right or you want them to live. Unless that person is doing serious harm to others, and I mean like ending them. We have no right to tell someone else how to live. And proselytizing, that's not just evangelizing. Proselytizing is forced conversion. It's what the Spanish conquistadors did that most of us are against, even us Christ followers. Do not promote that and are not for holy wars. There is no such thing that's a misnomer as a holy war. Oh, and we never looked up the last part of that word, Ashkenazi, right? So ash, Asherah, female god, or a tree, or burnt ash. Ken, to know a thing, or a house of thieves. And then you have Nazi on the end. Again, they're all the same group, and we're just allowing ourselves to be fooled because of words. They've shortened the words, they've changed the words. This group has that one, that group has that. They're all the same. They're all the ones who say they are chosen, but they are not. The changing of our ceremonial pattern could be proof of our prophecy about being forgetful of nature's presence. Ceremonial pattern. See, we're going to have to read the other book. White men will continue, and it's not a part one, it's just a Hopi pattern of life. It's how they actually live day to day, and they have different ceremonies for different solstices. And today we get called pagans for that, but we're supposed to be appreciative of harvesting season. We're supposed to be appreciative of the sun and the rain when we get it, when we need it. We should be out there doing something, I don't know what, but saying thank you or something. The changing of our ceremonial pattern could be proof of our prophecy about being forgetful of nature's presence. White men will continue to come. Great caution must be taken by Hopi to screen the bad from the good. At the time of Arabi's split, the people will remember that the remnant will again be split in two due to extreme pressure from the outside. Now, these are ones that are being fulfilled today, and this book is already older. One day our own children may become our enemies. Schools will destroy the sacred balance of Hopi life. Oh, gee. They will interrupt the traditions and people will forget the instructions of the medcial. This destruction will reach much farther than our village. The whole earth could go off balance. Yeah, because you see it in our schools. You see it in our way of life. Most of us have forgotten who we are, let alone what we're able to do or should be doing. As foretold, all this information must come out in the open at the period when we are about to be overcome by harmful elements and can step no further. Mother villages are endowed with power of self-protection, a weapon of mysterious power. Those who defy and disturb their roots without respect will suffer great misfortune, which can extend to the whole of mankind. Gee, if those fires are real that they're having over by the Grand Canyon, perhaps it's because somebody did something they weren't supposed to do over there. Didn't I just get done saying something like, we're not going to be able to get into that land if we're not able to get in? Like, you've got to have a pure heart and you've got to have the right blood. We're now awaiting our white brother who traveled eastward across the great waters long ago, who was to return when he hears of our difficulties. He will deliver the sacred Hopi stone tablets into proper hands. Since the reference here is to more than one stone tablet, the obvious meaning is that the white brother will make certain the various tablets are given to their proper keepers. In other words, he will take them away from the unworthy and give them to the worthy. As for the corner of the Fire Clan stone tablet that is missing, and he apparently took it with him when he went away, he will put it back in place. And that tense and exciting moment, the manner of the closing of the fourth cycle, will at last be known. So that's what you got to look for, is for this to be happening or to be talked about. Somebody, some white individual, some non-Hopi, who is still their brother. Again, that's a mystery. There's mysteries and prophecies, and we're not these people, so we haven't read about all of it. One day, Hopi children will, with short hair or bald heads, will be the ears and the mouths for the elders, and in time become our leaders. Short hair or bald heads. One day our land will be taken over for development. So today the housing projects are beginning. The dimensions in time and space will vary in accordance with the conduct of man and nature. So the very dimensions of time and space could change if we are living in a way that is anti-natural, that is unnatural to the natural progression of life that the maker put in place, right? We see each kind with its kind. As we follow the pattern of life, our individual lifestyle might change, and some of us might become mixed up and even fall to the opposing forces who have their materialistic advantages. But there will always be resistance from those of us who stand together and adhere to the great laws. As the authoritative leaders die out, people with bad intentions will seek out leaders with whom they can deal for their own ends. People with good intentions will also seek for the right leaders to help them regain what was rightfully theirs from the beginning. Children and even grown-ups will forget their language, intermarriage, and with other tribes, and races will deplete the identity of what we are. All these things have been foretold repeatedly by our elders, who taught us to beware that Bahana education would lead us into pitfalls which we will never escape. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, your current educational Department of Education. I hate to do it, but I'm going to have to end this video. I'm going to go make an omelet for my son and use the potty because I drank creatine. I'm hoping for some rain. I don't know if we'll get it. I got to take the dogs out. However, watch for shorter videos that I will be uploading regarding current events if you want to see those. I know I mess the algorithm up sometimes doing that and you don't get to see them. But they're here on the channel. If you're ever interested, just come take a look. I try to do something each day, not because I want to, but because I look at it as my job. This is my work until I get to a place in which I can actually work the land in a way in which it's meant to be worked. But this is my penance too. And a lot of us are going through these things, and a lot of us have gone through these things. And that's why I said in the beginning, if me repenting, maybe it can help my family or just like my little area, my life. But every person that decides to stop doing certain things we're not supposed to be doing, every person that decides to do that, every person that sits on this side of the boat will help it to not sink. Right now, we got too many people on the other side, and we're sinking. We are sinking. You need to keep your eyes open. You need to pray. And most of all, go talk to God about the things we talked about. Nothing I said is untrue. These things seem radical. They seem outlandish, but they are happening. And I'm not the only one talking about it now. There are plenty more. And I'm so blessed for that because it's needed. The truth needs to get out. And I was squashed and I was hurt and harmed and stalked through all this. And so there's a reason they don't want all these things out. Now start putting the puzzle pieces together, take it all back to God. I will read more from this book to you guys. Maybe I'll start doing one in the morning and one at night because I know you want to hear the rest of the prophecies. And I also have to finish the book of Acts because I found some more Philip K. Dick stuff that I'm either going to do a short video on and just upload it for you guys. Not a short, but I mean a shorter video. If not, I will talk about it in our next act reading, which again might be tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on how the algorithm's doing, depending on what you guys have to say, if anybody says anything. Thank you, Michigander and Michael, for being here. You guys are awesome, for having a little bit of fellowship with me. I appreciate that. And I'm so stealing that. Creator provides if the dude abides. That needs to put on a t-shirt or on a bumper sticker. All right, you guys have a blessed day. Bye.